शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश कालिने जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण
हरि बोल।
कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare
Haribol.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hari Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Welcome back, everybody, to the ongoing discussions about the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam and working towards our deadline of Bhadra Purnima. This morning, we're joined by His Grace Savas Prabhu, who has, from the beginning of his sojourn in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also been a book distributor extraordinaire and also one of the trustees of the BBT, and it remains so to this day. He's been instrumental in keeping the book distribution in North America especially vibrant over many, many years. And I see devotees from various parts of the country who have joined us today. And our intention is again to keep our focus on what puts the excitement in the movement, what makes our movement move. And we're experiencing that as we move towards Bhadra Purnima, that feeling of exhilaration that we're actually going somewhere and doing something, which was Srila Prabhupada's method. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of you who have joined us today. Vancha kalpadrubhascha kripasinabhevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, some of you had asked for a special session in various places to talk about this for your particular communities and groups. And I'll just make a couple of comments and then ask Savas Prabhu to say a few words. One is that we're finally getting some movement in the Bhadra Purnima plan after the last few years. Although there's been participation, cooperation, and we've been developing systems, until this year, by Lord Chaitanya's divine arrangement, we haven't seen a widespread of enthusiasm for Bhadra Purnima. It's been segregated to small places around the world, and especially India, which is equipped for mass distribution, but now we're seeing it break out extensively and widely. Of course, it can grow, and it will grow more and more over the next several years, and we have plans, even after Bhadra Purnima finishes on Tuesday, of ways in which to expand it to a much larger level, which it should be. However, we're very encouraged this year that devotees are aware of Bhadra Purnima and also participating in unprecedented ways. So I want to hear first from Savas Prabhu, any of the thoughts that you have. Savas, from your perspective of Bhadra Purnima, how it's going, you see around the country, and any words of encouragement you want to give to all the devotees about this initiative. You're on mute. Savas Prabhu, you got to come off mute.
There you go.
Hare Krishna.
Am I on now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Maybe it's better you don't hear me. Thank you very much for inviting me to come on this really special, wonderful program, especially on auspicious day as the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You know, the father of this Sankirtan movement. I was thinking that this Bhadra Purnima, I remember when you introduced me to it several years back, I was wondering how it was going to go. I think that when I thought about it, it did remind me of that one quote by Srila Prabhupada, you know, where he said that he wanted every respectable person to have a full set of the Srimad Bhagavatams and Chaitanya Charitamritas in their home. And I always wondered about that particular statement by Prabhupada because, you know, how was that going to happen? How in the world was that going to, you know, really be introduced? And, you know, you only have so many members, and, you know, you always thought that Srimad Bhagavatam was based on that principle. You know, you make a life member, you give them a set of Bhagavatams and a set of Chaitanya Charitamritas. And I never really thought too much about that, you know, not very deeply about it anyway, as much as I did about, you know, mass distribution and things like that. So I never paid much attention to it, in all honesty, until you introduced it to me and you, you know, kind of pushed it and reminded me how important it was. You know, Bhagavatam to me is one of the most important books of Srimad Bhagavatam. I read it every day, and it's just, the purports are ecstatic. And so to me, it was a very important aspect of book distribution that I've kind of like neglected, honestly, you know, in all honesty, really. You know, you neglected it. But by your association, I became inspired, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. And, you know, so how is it going to happen? And I've been, just this last several years, by your enthusiasm, Vaisesika Prabhu, and your team, you've proven something that is really important, and that is that we can distribute these Srimad Bhagavatam sets in a real mass way, and every year it's been increasing. And here in the BBT, we're ecstatic about that because just the other day, I had a conversation with Jagadeeshananda Prabhu, and we were just like giddy. We were just like laughing like anything because he was getting these orders, from your team and other devotees around the America. And we were just like giddy. We were just laughing how so many orders were just coming in one right after another. It just reminded me in the early days that you'd be out on book distribution, and you'd be with a Prabhu, and they tell you how many books he distributed, and it just made you just so happy. You were just like so excited. It made you excited and enthusiastic to be a part of it. So I'd have to say that for us, that was really a welcome situation for us to hear all the scores. And, there's something about that because, Prabhupada said to us, there's no more direct preaching than to distribute his books, and what to speak of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam actually just stands on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and it's got full potency. The potency that comes from the Bhagavatam, it's Krishna himself, really. And there's no limit to the effect of what the Bhagavatam has on a particular individual and on the whole world, in fact. So if we remain, really convinced and sincere in this philosophy, and we take up the desire to distribute these books, there's probably no greater service that one can do in this age of Kali Yuga than to distribute these Srimad Bhagavatams. The Sankirtan movement is the most important movement in this world today. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he even preached this method of Sankirtan by the chanting of the holy name, propagation of the holy name. And the Srimad Bhagavatam has that in it. So if we're distributing the Srimad Bhagavatams, then Krishna is so satisfied. Prabhupada has said many times that the devotees they're naturally satisfied by knowing everything about Krishna. They're just naturally happy to hear about Krishna every day. But besides that, a devotee is actually very eager also to broadcast information to others, to let everybody else know about Krishna. So they see that the glories of the Lord are very important to be known by everyone. Thus, the devotee feels really satisfied when an opportunity arises to spread this Krishna conscious movement by this, Sankirtan movement, especially this book distribution. So I really would like to, thank all of you and how hard you're working. I think you're making so many people fortunate today. I believe that Prabhupada said that unless one is Bhagyavan, unless one is very fortunate, they'll never go back home, back to Godhead. And he'll just stay in this material world. So this book distribution, it gives an opportunity for people to become fortunate. And that is the Krishna consciousness movement. It means trying to make people Bhagyavan, trying to help them become fortunate. And this book distribution is what it is. And if a person gets a book and they read it, the Srimad Bhagavatam, if they want, they can become fortunate. And really, that's our attempt. Our attempt is to help people become fortunate. So, from this book distribution, we've developed, so many centers. We're teaching people by the process of Krishna consciousness how to become fortunate, how to go back home, back to Godhead, how we can be happy. All these things are there, and people become happy. And then when they take this instruction and they turn their life around, and therefore, that's our mission. That's our real goal. Our real goal is to get people and give people an opportunity to become fortunate, to become happy, to become satisfied. And so we're giving this chance to people. And that's actually our mission. Really, it really is. when you think about it, what can be more important than to really just try to make people happy and fortunate? Just like we want to be happy, we want to be fortunate, we want to be, totally satisfied in our life and what we do with our life. So this book distribution is the most important task in our society. And Prabhupada gave us that opportunity, but he also stressed it. He even made so many comments how hard he worked on this process of book distribution. Prabhupada even mentioned himself that, because this was his life and soul, and it was an order of his Guru Maharaj, and he made it his life and soul. And so we see that by that sincere endeavor, how successful Srila Prabhupada was by just taking that whole, making the instruction of his guru his life and soul. You can see the effect of it, and how we as Prabhupada disciples, I feel that we weren't really able to distribute these Bhagavatam sets so nicely as was happening today. So I think that it's just the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that when you take up this mission with our heart and soul, that it actually becomes successful. And like Srila Prabhupada, he never really tried to make temples or to, build temples, construct big temples in India or even in America for that matter. But he was selling books, and he personally sold these books. And really, that's Srila Prabhupada's history. If we really want to know about the history of Prabhupada, that was his history. And, if we just make that our goal also, that can be our history. I think that if we take up the science of book distribution very seriously, and I believe by the association of Vaisesika Prabhu, who's working so hard in order to push on this book distribution, especially in America and now actually around the whole world. So this question was asked to Srila Prabhupada about book distribution, and the question was asked, Prabhupada, what pleases you? And Prabhupada said, actually, it's a fact that all of us, we should all preach and we should all distribute his books. It's the best way to please him. Prabhupada would always say that book distribution should always be given stress. And if you sincerely endeavor, it is a fact that Krishna will be happy and he'll supply everything. That's the secret of success. And Prabhupada himself said in so many occasions that he just followed his Guru Maharaj blindly. He didn't question, he just blindly followed. And the results were there. You can see this whole Krishna conscious movement is there. But it was based on this book distribution. So many times we've heard Prabhupada say things like, book distribution is Bhagavat Marg. And then there's Pantaratriki, the deity worship. And Prabhupada said both are important. But if you were to say which is most important, Bhagavat Marg, Prabhupada said, is the most important. Pancharatriki is very important, but they should work simultaneously. So we have temples, we're performing deity worship, but this Bhagavat Marg, this book distribution, should always be the most important activity of our society. And as long as that's there, then everything will come from there. Everything comes from book distribution. Management is important, but if management doesn't have book distribution, then it won't be as successful. So I can see that Vaisesika Prabhu has a really wonderful, intelligent group of devotees. And I can see that they're also seeing the importance of this book distribution. All I can say is that thank you so much for making it such an important aspect of your life. That is extremely wonderful to see, because as a senior devotee in ISKCON, it's nice to see the other generations taking up book distribution and taking it so sincerely. And every time I hear the scores, I marvel because I have a little bit of an idea how hard it is to do that. You know, it's not an easy thing. It's actually very challenging. It takes a lot of control, sense control, mind control, surrender. It takes all those ingredients. And you just have to marvel at what the results are, because how can they be, those are just wonderful things that happen. They're like wonderful, glorious things. And even when I was distributing books at one time in the early days, that if you would approach your god brother and god sister and you say, Prabhuji, how are you doing? And they say this, that, and everything, and go, oh my God, what? I can't believe you're doing that. How are you doing it? Come on, tell me what you're doing. I can't take it. I got to know what you're doing. What are you saying? What are you thinking? And then you go back to the temple, and what it makes you do is just pray like anything to Krishna. Krishna, please give me the intelligence. Please give me the encouragement and the strength to execute my devotional service. And I think that's what's really glorious about book distribution. Because when you do book distribution, you got to think about Krishna. From the minute you get up in the morning, you're praying to Krishna. And as the morning goes on, you're even praying more to Krishna. And then as you take the sadhana, you're praying to Krishna. Don't let me eat too much. Let me control my tongue. Let me become just fully absorbed in thinking about you, Krishna, and distributing your books. And then when you get into that van and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I just got to, please, Krishna, give me the empowerment, give me the strength, give me the intelligence how I can do this. So I think that's book distribution. You're always thinking. You're going through the whole year here thinking about what you're going to do. And then you can take one exhale breath on December the 31st. You go, oh. But then January 1st, kabam! immediately you're just there again. You just go, oh my God, what are we going to do? What's our strategy? What who's who and what's what? And you start thinking all over again. And that goes for a whole 12 months of thinking and being involved and engrossed in book distribution. And I think that's the glory of distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. It forces you to think of Krishna all the time. So, Vaisesika Prabhu, I want to thank you and your team for making me think about Krishna all the time. You're a big asset in that. So thank you very, very much.
Savas Prabhu, as you know well, we're working under you, and that's what's really giving us the power. I have a reflection for you and also a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The reflection is that when you said it's not such an easy thing to go back to Godhead, you have to be fortunate.
Yeah.
And then when you gave that imagery of how book distribution makes people fortunate, I saw a set of books going into somebody's house. Devamrita Swami said last night, they're never the same once that happens. And then your statement about how it makes people fortunate. And if they don't have that, if they don't get the fortune, then there's no scope for going back to Godhead. And I put the two together, this imagery of the book, the set of books going in somebody's house, and then how it changes them. And the way you so clearly put it, that, wow, they became fortunate. And there's no replacement for that anywhere in the material world.
No.
I really like that. That's a very inspiring image that you painted for us.
Yeah.
And the question that I have, since you've been through every era of book distribution and you've been really leading it and managing it and watching it grow and the peaks and valleys and things, what is your observation about the importance of teamwork we've talked about teamwork over the last, 7, 8 years, and we've implemented it in North America. Now we're reaching out through Bhadra. One of our main objectives of the Bhadra campaign is to unite the global community in book distribution and work towards one world goal. And how do you see what effect it's had in North America, the working together, sharing resources, sharing inspiration, and as we've been shooting for percentages together? There's always individual competition, but what difference does the teamwork make, as you've seen?
Oh boy, thank you. That's an amazing question, because that question has so much depth to it. Because really, Prabhupada would say that the most important position or person in the temple was the Sankirtan leader. Now, and the purpose of the Sankirtan leader, he was smart in understanding that in order to distribute more books, he's going to have more people on his Sankirtan team. And to make that possible, he has to be very intelligent, and he has to be very enthusiastic to inform people and to encourage them and give them the understanding of book distribution. And that's what he's supposed to do. And so that means all team effort. That means, making sure that the understanding's there, making sure that the books are there, the facilities are there, that the go down is there, the places to go are there. So he has a whole perspective of what needs to be done. And team effort is the number one goal. I mean, there's nothing, as a temple president, I can't do this temple by myself. It has to be a team effort. And everybody has to be able to cooperate or understand the path, the direction. So for me, team effort is everything. Everything. It has to be there. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. And Prabhupada even encouraged us like that, to cooperate, and that was one of his principles that he left to us, that will show our love to him by our cooperation. And that obviously that refers also to team spirit, working together in the spirit of pleasing the spiritual master, the Acharya, and of course Krishna. And without that, we're nothing. We're absolutely nothing. You're just some lone person on some island and just dreaming. You can't get nothing done, really. We need everybody. We need each other, and we need to have a good communication. And so, yeah, that's my little thing about
Thank you. Thank you very much, Savas. I have one other question, and because His Holiness Radhanath Swami and other speakers brought up how the Bhagavatam originally was written on palm leaves, and it took Srinivasacharya walking thousands of miles to get one copy, and now we have lots of copies. From your perspective as a publisher, you actually know all the various details of what it takes to put one book together, all the layout and the design and shopping around where to print it and things like that. And could you just say a few words about what goes into printing a set of Srimad Bhagavatams? Sometimes we take it for granted. They just show up in a box. But, from your office and your perspective, what do you have to go through to make sure that it comes out and it gets delivered?
Well, I'm just really grateful that I have devotees around me that help with that. It does take a team effort. And, we have to thank people like Bhadra Prabhu, who's very knowledgeable and understands the process of making sure that Prabhupada's books are properly laid out and properly presented. So he always looks over everything. Each time we want to print some particular title, he makes sure that he reviews all the different aspects of it, if there are any mistakes, anything that's left out. So that's very tedious. That takes months, literally months. And then after he does that, then it comes to us again. And then from that point, we take a look at the layout and design. Then we have Archita Prabhu, who's actually always thinking about different kinds of designs for the books. And we're always trying to make sure that everything is proper. And that also takes so much time and effort in terms of what kind of font, what kind of paper, and how it's bound up, and who's going to do a proper job. And then you have to deal with the printer back and forth. Of course, we've been very fortunate for the last few years that we've been staying with the same printer. And because we do that, they know exactly what we want. But if you have to go to a new printer, you have to go through all kinds of processes of the glue, the binding, the layout, the font. And you have to tell them and teach them what kind of title and the names. And so it's very tedious. And then, of course, after you get to that particular point, then you have to make sure that the devotees want that particular title. You have to, you communicate with me, and we communicate with other devotees. We tell them a particular title, and they say, oh, we want it, we don't want it. So it's a lot of interaction. And in the course of putting it all together, it literally takes months upon months. Just like we've been working with the Bhagavad Gita. Let's say, for instance, the small Gita in hardbound. How long have we been working with that particular process? It's taken like a year in order to come to that particular point where we can finally, get it out there and distribute it. So it takes months and months and months. It takes a lot of detail, a lot of communication, and I think a lot of education. We have to really be educated. And I may be missing a few things, but basically that's the whole idea in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Savas. I just wanted all of us to be aware of how everything's interconnected. Everything you do in your office, everything all the devotees do to deliver the books, it's all one huge team effort to make sure that we are making people fortunate. And I loved what you said about how that's the ultimate goal of our movement, that people become fortunate and happy. That really essentializes it and brings it to the fore about what our movement is, really. It's the ultimate philanthropic movement, and there is no other panacea. People are looking for that, but they won't find it outside Srila Prabhupada's books, and especially the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita.
I think it kind of plays into the part too that if you feel fortunate, if you wake up in the morning and you're saying to yourself, how in the world did I ever end up with this? I have to be, I am so fortunate. If you genuinely feel that way, you really got to tell somebody how fortunate you feel. And in the course of that, you tell them about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So yeah, it's,
Yeah, it's like an overflow, right?
Yeah, it's like an overflow. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you, Savas. I hope you'll stay on so you can hear some of the more, and we'll be back and forth with you if that's okay. Do you have time to stay a little longer? Okay.
Yes, bro. No problem, Pooji. I'm here.
Okay, we have some of our leaders from around the country. Denu Tarpita Prabhu, why don't you tell us what's going on out there on the East Coast a little bit, and tell us if you have any revelations about book distribution, Bhadra, or if you have any topics you want us to bring up to help your team.
Sure, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances and thank you for the opportunity. So in Philadelphia, we as a team have a goal of around 35 sets. It's not too many compared to the other temples, but considering that we only did around 12 last year, so we were ambitious, and rightly so, because of the worldwide campaign. So far as a congregation, we have done more than 20 sets, so we have still around 10 to 15 sets to be taken care of. So we as individual devotees are speaking to everyone, calling up as we used to do in the virtual Sankirtan party, informing them about the merits of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it's a literary incarnation of Krishna, and what are the benefits, not only for the family, but for the different generations in the family. So that is what we have been doing. We also have a Bhadra Purnima lecture or an event on the 1st of September, where His Grace Vishnu Prabhu we'll be glorifying about Srimad Bhagavatam. So we also expect, like last year, there will be some good number of people who will join to either take this set for themselves or gift it or sponsor it. So we are still marching towards our goal of 35 sets that we have set for this year.
I think what your team represents the power of this Bhadra Purnima. My comment to your lament that it's not as big as other communities is that it's really not about the numbers, it's about capacity. And everyone, every team, every person has his or her own capacity. And it's really a point at which we can push to our full capacity. And whatever that happens to be at the time, if we're going towards full capacity, doing everything that we possibly can, then that's what we call doing the best you can. And that's what we're all looking for. And so then the next question comes, how do we increase our capacity? And that's how a movement grows, is continually increasing capacity. And also, as within any living, breathing organism, there are compartments. Every part of the body has its own function and its own duties and capacities and so forth. So in our worldwide team, where we're looking for larger and larger capacity, every individual group like yours, which you have such good stewardship over, is coming together and realizing what is our capacity, how can we do the best we can right now. And I think that's one of the ways in which we're expanding book distribution, is examining capacity, and then we do the best we can with the numbers. The point is, as Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that birds fly in the sky as high as they're able, but the sky's unlimited. So you can't criticize any one bird for like, you didn't go as high as another. It's like, well, you didn't go to the limit either. So there's never a point at which we're going to say we did enough. We've done enough. We've done enough books. The point is capacity. So I appreciate what you're doing amidst, you represent something, and that is you're working a highly demanding professional job. You and Somadatra, your wife, have two lovely kids who are extremely energetic, and you're raising them as Krishna conscious children. And at the same time, you're doing your sadhana immaculately, and you're also doing book distribution. And this is what makes up the overall team of Bhadra all over the world, is everyone doing their level best according to what they can. I'm so happy that Vishnu Gadaprabhu will be coming. That's another way that all the generations come together to assist one another, to expanding capacity and getting enlivenment. Do you have any points at which you want to expand, and you want expert advice from anybody on the call about what to do about anything?
So just talking about Vishnu Prabhu, so he also happily agreed to sponsor one Srimad Bhagavatam set for Bhadra Purnima, knowing that there will be a yajna for Bilam. And and our realization has been that we as a congregation, we have to spend more efforts going out. That has been something that we as a community have to work on. And we have been doing that in bits and pieces, but then we would definitely need some brainstorming in doing that. So, that has been one of the realizations as a book distribution team that I will be very honest about. The numbers that we are seeing and the numbers that we would end up seeing in a couple of days on the Bhagavatam sets, they have been a mix of both internal and external devotees, or devotees from the congregation and non-devotees from outside. The success for us lies in that how we can increase the percentage of the external community taking part in this event. And I think that is where we would definitely welcome any guidance, any help, because we also want to make it big here and contribute whatever we can next year.
One concept that just came up recently, His Holiness Jai Pataka Maharaj brought it up, and then I checked in last night with the devotees in India, and they're already using it to great effect. And that is that everyone has someone in their family who's passed away or will pass away. That's a guarantee. And there's a sense that everybody has when a loved one passes away that I want to do something for them. What should I do? I get calls all the time. People say, my father passed away, my mother. What should I do now? What is my duty? And giving people the opportunity to sponsor Srimad Bhagavatam or any of Prabhupada's books at that time, but especially now Bhadra, is one of the ways to encourage people that if you have a loved one that's passed away, you should sponsor on their behalf. That really gets to people, and it's something that we can do perpetually throughout the year, is sign people up so that once a year they give away a Bhagavatam set on the anniversary of that person's passing away. So you can try that for the external world because that appeals to people universally, and especially those who are acquainted with Vedic culture and the fact that you can help people after they're departed. But it also makes sense to other people too. That's a benefit. You do it on their behalf, Thank you very much, Dana Tarpita. If you think of other things, you can jump back in. And I wanted to also bring Aditya Narayan Prabhu, the great leader out there in North Carolina, to tell us what's happening there and see if you want to give us any of the insights that you've had there or gain any from the devotees here on the call.
Hare Krishna,
Haribol. Jai,
most
Aditya
humble
Narayan
obeisances.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the opportunity and my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas here. Very inspiring, like all the few calls in the last few days with Indramna Swami Maharaj, Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, and then yesterday with Devamrit Prabhu, and then today with Savas Prabhu. It's just been like so inspiring. So thank you so much for organizing this wonderful series of calls. So here we actually created, we had been thinking of Bhadra Purnima, like thinking, okay, how can we actually, do more than the previous year? So we actually got together and we created a video, just like a 3-minute video where we had 2 children of our community who actually share their experience of reading Bhagavatam, one 10-year-old and one 15-year-old. And we had one devotee like introduce the concept of Bhadra Purnima, and we had these 2 children like share their experience with Bhadra Purnima. And it's a 3-minute video. We had it like, with some nice sound effect and Bhadra Purnima. And we circulated it to like our entire congregation and asked them like share it with everyone, on all WhatsApp groups. So, and it was amazing. Like we got reviews that, that people just saw the video and then said like, oh yeah, I will take a set without even like further talking to them. So that video worked really well for us. And then also like we encouraged the entire congregation to reach out to either their cousins or any relatives in North America or also in India, and tell them about Bhadra Purnima, tell them like how it is so auspicious to give a gift of Bhagavatam and receive a gift of Bhagavatam, and also about the Mahayagya and Ahobalam. So we shared all the details, and actually for the last, I would say 4 days, it's just amazing. Like every time I pick up my phone, there's like, oh yeah, my cousin is willing to accept one Bhagavatam set. And it's just been like coming up again and again. So like in the last 4 days, we have actually done over 30 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. It's been amazing. And then we have people calling in and saying like, I would like to sponsor a set. And also one devotee here, Kalindi, who was actually in ISV, she's bringing the energy from ISV. So we did even the local temples. We went to all the local temples, told them about Bhadra Purnima, and even they have been like very, happy to know about this whole concept of Bhadra Purnima. And yeah, our initial goal was like we had only 20 Bhagavatam sets since Gaur Purnima till maybe like 2 weeks back. And then we said like, okay, can we do 50 sets? So we are already at 44 and we are getting more orders. So we are praying we'll smash the goal of 50 sets this year. So New Goloka. Hare Krishna.
Aditya Narayan Prabhu, I really liked your sharing of the video. This seems to be a technique that works in various places. Has it worked out here also? Some of the devotees were using videos to sell books. And do you have that video?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let's see. If I share the YouTube link, would it be easier for maybe one of you to play it from your end? Okay.
Why don't you just share it in the chat box, and our moderator will pick it up and share it with the rest of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is one of the benefits of teamwork, is if something's working somewhere, some revelation comes in, the quicker that we can get it out to everybody so that everyone else can start using it without feeling there's any proprietary idea. In the old days, competition used to get so thick that there was a kind of a secretive nature to sharing good ideas. But nowadays we're going the other direction. Okay. Let's share that, and let's show the video and just get an idea for what kind of video is selling books. I think you have to
Hare Krishna. Coming up very soon on September 1st, 2020 is a very special day called Bhadra Purnima. The very same Lord Krishna appears in this age of Kali Yuga in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is considered by Vyasadeva himself as the essence of all Vedic scriptures. On the auspicious occasion of Bhadra Purnima, all over the world, we celebrate the appearance of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So on this day, anyone who welcomes in their house, or gifts, or sponsors an entire set of Srimad Bhagavatam gains tremendous, unparalleled spiritual benefit and attains the highest perfection.
Hare Krishna. My name is Ayush and I'm 10 years old. I have the great fortune of reading the Srimad Bhagavatam for the last 2 years. Also, it is the highlight of the day when I read it with my parents, and it really blisses me out. I love Srimad Bhagavatam and its instructive and informative stories, such as the Dashavatara, Dhruva Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj, and many such amazing, brilliant, and mystical stories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
My name is Shreya and I'm 15 years old. Whenever I read the Srimad Bhagavatam, I learn so much from it. Not only do I know about the spiritual aspect of my existence, but I also learn about how to navigate material life. And I learn how to deal with circumstances and situations in a practical way. It amazes me how much science there is in the Bhagavatam. Various subjects such as biology, astronomy, politics, psychology, history, culture, and so much more is discussed in the Bhagavatam.
Make use of this most auspicious occasion. Anyone who receives a whole set of Srimad Bhagavatam or sponsors a whole set, your name will be offered in a special Nrsimha Yajna in Ahobilam in India on Bhadra Purnima Day. Help us preserve our Vedic literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam sets are available in English, Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati, Hindi, and many more languages. Special price for the entire set of 80 books is $250. Call or text us today to reserve your set. Hare Krishna.
Bravo!
Haribol.
Hey, that was a great film. Very good. Well done, everybody. And this is one of the ways to sell Bhagavatam sets, is to make a a video or get a video from somebody else and just share it, because let the video do the talking. Thank you, Aditya Narayan Prabhu. Any other points that you would like to make? Encouragements you want to give to the rest of the devotees here?
Well, I just want to say that it's like I was just realizing for the last 3-4 days, like how the orders are just coming, and I was thinking like this is certainly the potency of Vaishnavas, of your excellent idea and your push, and all the Vaishnavas like all over the world coming together. I was thinking like this like draws so much potency of our dear Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas, and I was thinking like it's just like magic, like how so many orders are coming and everyone is reaching out to their cousins and relatives, and in India they're calling, and it's just I was just amazed. I'm just seeing the potency of coming through, and just feel fortunate to be a part of this special mercy.
Thank you very much for being such an exemplary leader, you and your wife, on all levels. And what an amazing community you have there. Keep up the great work, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you
Krishna,
for that.
Hare Krishna. And now we have the pleasure of introducing our modern day Narada Muni, Vedavit Prabhu. He comes originally we're proud to say from ISV, and but Krishna had other ideas. He wanted to share him with the world and moved him all over the place, and wherever he goes, and he's the epitome of determination and steadiness. And he started Sankirtan movements at whatever locations he landed. And now he's been instrumental in Southern California in developing book distribution, especially in the Laguna Beach area. But his influence is far-reaching because he helps from behind the scenes in many ways that people don't even know about. And there's Vedavit. Hare Krishna, welcome. Please tell us.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance. All Guru Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Savas Prabhu, please accept my humble Guru Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, all Vaishnavas, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your kind words of encouragement. We are trying to do Srimad Bhagavatam promotion on auspicious occasion of Bhadra Purnima with the encouragement of ISV and other BBT and all over the world. The encouragement is like very, it's like how COVID-19 is spreading. This Bhadra Purnima is widespread all over the world, like a disease. A lot of people actually calling and giving encouragement to us. And we have set a goal of 50 sets, and we are actually ready to smash that goal now with all the mercy of Vaishnavas and Panchatattva and everyone. And actually, with Tukaram Prabhu and Rupanu Prabhu, we discussed and then just released our newsletter, weekly newsletter, advertising Bhadra Purnima and the yajna and everything. And like we got, like same day, we got few calls that they said they're ready to sponsor Bhagavatam sets, or they will ready to take. And we are planning at least 4 to 5 Srimad Bhagavatam installations on Bhadra Purnima day itself. Because even though it's working day, we said we will go in the evening and install 5 sets at their home, so that they will call their friends or relatives and they will also get encouraged. Every year we do that, and this year it's we thought it's difficult to go in person, but they agreed to do that. So recently, just a few weeks ago, we also installed 2-3 Srimad Bhagavatam sets in locally, and we are trying to do our best here. Thank you for all the encouragement by all the Vaishnavas.
Thank you very much, Vedavit Prabhu. Wonderful to see you and get the news from what's going on down there in the south. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Last night we heard from Gopal Champu Prabhu about how there's a phenomena here in North America that African Americans, for some reason, are particularly open to taking full sets of Bhagavatams. Gopal Prabhu, do you have any theories about why that is? And maybe you can say something, because we would like to, as we're riding this wave of Bhadra, and we're definitely getting to the Indian audience, which seems to be the low-hanging fruit, and we're going to keep doing that unlimitedly as long as it's available. What about this, as we go out into other audiences, what about the African American groups? What about them? Why are they so open to taking full sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, and what are you telling them?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Gopal Champu, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I think there's some.
Hare Krishna, Savas Prabhu. This is among
Hi,
basis.
Joe. Hare Krishna, Vice Papa.
So happy to see you.
There he is.
In the book room. There you go. Right where you belong.
Yeah. Great backdrop.
So reaching out to African Americans, we've been noticing, we're down here in Atlanta now, which I know is both of your old stomping grounds, and we've been noticing kind of a shift in consciousness, at least in kind of like, it's weird, it's like another hippie movement, but within the African American community kind of thing, where a lot of these people, they're very interested in like crystals and Eastern philosophy, and many of them that we're approaching, they know about the Bhagavad Gita, they heard about the Bhagavad Gita. So it was surprising to us when we came down here, because actually it's even different to a lot of experiences we're having in the north. It's kind of down here, down south, maybe because people were oppressed or something like that. They've been turning more towards spirituality, and so because of that, we've seen that field now. We're having experience that they're very open to receive full sets of Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Srila Prabhupada's books, and they're very enthusiastically reading. We have one boy named Nick, who we were walking around the park, and he approached us, and he initially took a Bhakti stack, and then we were doing like a online Zoom class, so he started attending our Zoom classes online, and they were law school in DC. We stay connected as much as possible, and then when we told him about the Bhagavad, agreed. So we sent him one over there in his dorm and watched when he's going to school now. And he sent his friend over who just got one this past to spend. We're noticing even these actually generally want to understand. It's kind of like another wave of that consciousness of, okay, material life isn't doing it for us. So, what is the real thing? And as we know, Srimad Bhagavatam has the answer. So we're enthusiastically presenting this knowledge to them, and we're seeing that reciprocation. Yeah, my connection maybe isn't so good here. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can pick that up. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we're getting about 82%. It's so nectarian. It's so nectarian to hear. One of my thoughts while you were saying that is that we need to deliberately reach out to that audience. We should have a part of our team really investigating how to touch base with the African American community. I think it's timely because there's a Black Lives Matter movement. There's this sense of awareness of the oppression of Black people for so many generations, and we should be proactive and looking at inroads into this community, since you're revealing it from your foray down there in Atlanta. Do you think that's a good idea, Gopal Champu Prabhu, that we start to go in that direction?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, go ahead. You have more to say, please.
Well, I just had a question for Savas Prabhu, or maybe I wanted to hear something from him. A couple things. I was recently reading where where he had asked Srila Prabhupada how to expand book distribution. So maybe I wanted to hear what was said, and maybe the circumstances of how that was said, and then also his, almost 50 years dedicated to this service, how he's been able to maintain such enthusiasm to do it, and to have others do it as well. How to maintain that.
So, okay. What was the first one again? I'm not sure what are you referred to.
So I was recently reading your, I think, Prabhupada in Atlanta, how to expand book distribution. And if you can reveal that, share that pastime with us, I think it would benefit devotees here.
Well, it was a very quick thing, really, very quick and very, very sweet. The idea was that Prabhupada was giving a room, conversation, not a conversation, but a little darshan. And in that darshan, a devotee asked Prabhupada, how we could improve, our preaching for personal, how we could increase our personal preaching. And Prabhupada said that I'm just everything capsulating. I can't remember everything, but I'm just capsulating everything. And what came of it was that Prabhupada made the statement that if one wants to increase their, preaching, their Krishna consciousness, that one should rise in the morning, and one should not perform any other activity, taking prasadam or anything, until they finish their 16 rounds. And then by that method, one can increase one's Krishna consciousness and make advancement very nicely, very quickly in Krishna consciousness. So that was it in a encapsulation. So it was very powerful, very powerful. So yeah.
Thank you.
That was that.
He also asked you how you've been able to stay connected with book distribution for 50 years plus.
I guess Bhagavan, I was fortunate. I think it was all about fortune. I think that being introduced to book distribution at a very young age in Krishna consciousness, and it really resonated with me. To be honest, I didn't think I was that kind of a person. I really didn't think I was the kind of person that would want to go out and meet people, talk to someone. Because I was kind of like just not interested in that. But I think that chanting, associating with devotees, reading Prabhupada's books, it changed my whole conception of myself. And then from that, starting to go out and meet people, I really felt that that was something that was important, not only for myself, but for everybody. Previous to becoming a devotee, I had that kind of tendency of wanting to do something, but I didn't know what, so I just didn't do anything because there was no direction, although I was looking for something. So I think that when meeting the devotees, and then meeting Srila Prabhupada, that was my changing thing. In 1974, I met Srila Prabhupada. In 1974, I saw Vaisesika at the San Francisco temple when he was a young man, young devotee. I remember you running up and down a staircase. But the difference was meeting Srila Prabhupada. And seeing him, it made me feel that there was one true person, one person who really was sincere, and a person who had this incredible power of just breaking me down, mentally. In fact, that I recall the one shocking moment for me was in the material world, a man doesn't cry. You don't cry because it's just like, what do you have to cry for? You don't cry. So, I never even thought about it. But then Prabhupada gave a Bhagavatam class, 6th canto Bhagavatam. And he finished that class, and it was just incredibly powerful. A John Mill. After the class finished, Prabhupada got up and he began, just walking out the door. And what was really stunning and shocking was that when he was leaving and someone began chanting his pranam prayers, it created this kind of like an amazing feeling of gratitude and love for Srila Prabhupada. And as a, man, all I could do is just cry. Tears were in my eyes, and I just didn't know what Prabhupada was doing to me. But, I was very close to him. He walked right by me. And just his presence, his whole demeanor, his whole presentation, it just broke me down, so to speak, from all this craziness, and puffed up ego, whatever. And just completely from that, I remember that particular point to this day. In that particular time, I felt I really needed to just be a devotee and dedicate my life to Srila Prabhupada. So from that point, and then associating with devotees and, having an opportunity to distribute Prabhupada's books, and then getting a position in Krishna consciousness, which allowed me the opportunity to control that activity. I was asked to become a temple president. I only accepted it because I thought I could control the book distribution in the temple. So because of my controlling nature, the bad habit of wanting to control everything, Krishna allowed me to use it to control book distribution. And so that is what really kept me going. It wasn't the management, but it was the opportunity to please Srila Prabhupada. And book distribution was the process. So I really accepted that, and that's what keeps me going. And then seeing people like you and what you're doing, that also is very inspiring. It's heart-throbbing, hard to explain, but it reminds me of different avenues and sections of my life in Krishna consciousness and how important it really is. So you guys are keeping me going.
So we could see from the Bhagavatam, when the sages talked to Sutta Goswami, they asked him questions that opened his heart, and then he spilled the beans. He brought out the whole thing. So Gopal Champu Prabhu very expertly asked a question to Savas Prabhu that gave us some insight, some things I'd never heard before, actually. And that was very meaningful and very powerful. Thank you very much, both of you. Yeah. Now I'd like to ask Svavasa, who's been distributing books since he was a baby, and since he could barely walk. Now he's a very tall, strapping young man, and still distributing books. Can you just give a perspective of what it's like to grow up around book distribution, what it felt like as a little kid? I remember when you were 5 and we went out together and what does it feel like? What does it look like to a kid? And now what does it look like to you? And tell us.
I think, can you hear me, Marge?
Yes.
Okay. I think book distribution is such an amazing way to grow up because it's something that not only allows you to become a bigger part of your community, but it also allows you to strengthen your impetus and your conviction to serve the devotees. Because I remember as a kid that whenever the primary motivating factor to go on book distribution as a kid was to do more books than everyone else. It was always like, and it was never like I took book distribution seriously when I was 5 years old. I used to just go to people, and because I was 5 years old, I used to tell them to take the book, and they're like, "Oh, it's a 5-year-old," and they used to take the book. But I realized that growing up, I thought book distribution was easy at that point. But as you grow up, people don't like that effect wears out, and people, it becomes a very humbling process, especially because there are going to be those certain people that, like, sometimes like you'll approach a unripe mango, and the unripe mango will really like destroy your ego. And it's such a growing experience because it makes me take my spiritual life a lot more seriously, because I'm able to understand the gift that I've been given. Yeah, because I realize that some Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't come very easily, especially even for everyone. Even when they're given Srimad Bhagavatam, they don't take it. And that I need to start reading Srimad Bhagavatam much more strictly if I want to be able to understand what I'm giving. And reading Srimad Bhagavatam is such a huge part of distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, because once you have that gratitude aspect to it and you understand the value of it, you're really able to channel that gratitude towards someone and really like push. Like when I appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam more, I'm able to push for Srimad Bhagavatam more towards people, and I'm able to ask them with much more enthusiasm to take Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and that sort of gift has never like, it would have never came to me if I didn't grow up with book distribution, because book distribution has been able to provide the foundation of every aspect of my spiritual life in order to take my sadhana more seriously, in order to actually engage in Sankirtan, and also in order to create deeper, more profound friendships with my devotee friends, because now all of us do books together and we do Sankirtan together. And it's really helped shape my entire spiritual life around this one aspect of, it's my entire life around just staying with devotee friends and yeah, and helping the acharyas and Srila Prabhupada in Sankirtan.
Thank you very much, Svavasa, for giving that unique point of view that we've not known before. It's a new phenomena, hearing from youth who have grown up in it. And for that point, on the East Coast, Shreya, you've been around the book distribution movement for the youth out in North Carolina. Can you say a few words, the perspective of the youth out there and how it's affecting them? And what's your perspective of book distribution as a young person who's doing book distribution, hearing and chanting?
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, sorry, I'm not in a very good attire, but so yes, book distribution has, like, growing up with it has been so awesome, because I get to learn, first of all, like Srivatsa said, your ego really does take a hit as you grow older. And I feel like that has helped me grow as a person as well, because it gives me an idea of like how the real world is, so to say. And I agree with a lot of Srivatsa's points that by reading the books, you get so much appreciation and so much impetus to want to distribute them. And when I was younger, to be quite honest, it was more of a social activity and something that Matajis and Prabhujis would praise me about if I did well. But then as I started growing older, I was like this is something so cool that we have. Like, how would I have lived my life if I did not have Krishna consciousness? How does everyone else do it? And then just looking around and like seeing all my school friends, they just live in the same cycle. They just go to school, do homework, do sports, go to sleep, and wake up and do the same thing again. And it's kind of like depressing that they aren't able to have the same thing I am. And that's just the kids, but like the adults who are teaching their kids the same thing. It's really sad that they haven't been given what I've been given. So book distribution allows us to give everyone else this opportunity that we've been given. And I'm just learning that book distribution isn't easy, because you have to be able to uncondition yourself and let your ego get hurt. And you really need to depend on Krishna. You have to understand you're not the controller, which can be hard for me because I'm very controlling, but I feel like it's so helpful. It's like an overflow of your sadhana. So you need to focus on your sadhana to have good book distribution. So it gives you impetus to focus on your sadhana and to distribute well. So I would just definitely say that like it's made a huge impact on how I've looked at the world and how I've looked at my devotional life and interaction with other devotees and non-devotees. Hare Krishna.
Well done, Shreya. Thank you very much for giving us an impromptu. We really appreciate realization. And the common thread between what you and Srivatsa said, I found to be extremely profound, and that is that you find it a purifying activity and that you have to go and face the false ego being assaulted, and that it becomes purifying. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that's what gives you spiritual blood. Thank you. Now here we have a picture of our first outing. There's Srivata and a few of his friends. We went out, I think you were 5 years old at this time, going door to door, and we discovered how powerful it is for kids to have the experience, what to speak of the adults who go with them, of distributing books. Isn't that nice of us, Prabhu?
Pardon me?
Isn't that a nice picture?
Pretty cool.
Amazing, right? Yeah. Hare Krishna.
You're looking pretty good yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, time flies. I have a few thoughts that I'd like to share at this point. And one of them is how our movement runs on Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And one of the visible ways in which Lord Chaitanya and Krishna's mercy is pervasive in the Krishna conscious movement. I mean, even starting with the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you consider how there was no WhatsApp at that time. And when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed, everybody showed up. How did that happen? How did everybody know to congregate in that place? And you might read about it and think, oh, that couldn't have happened. But Super Soul is there within everyone's heart, and he's attentive to every single living entity everywhere at every second, and is helping everybody move towards fulfilling their desires, and especially when somebody wants to take to Krishna consciousness. Even if at one time in one lifetime, millions of lifetimes ago, somebody said, I want to become Krishna conscious, or I want to know God, or there was a scintilla of sincerity for that, Krishna will make sure that gets aligned sometime. And he's the one who's bringing everyone together. We rely on social media, WhatsApp for communication, but actually Krishna is the one who brings us all together ultimately. And that lesson there is evident at the speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam, how everybody knew to come there. It was the biggest event, and Krishna arranged it. So the other point is keeping our focus as we're growing this book distribution movement on the fact that the scores are incidental. We keep goals and we go for bigger and bigger scores just because that's important to keep us going. We need something to shoot for in order to attain it. But really, what we're going for is what it makes of us to attain the goal in the process. It's the process that's important, and what we become by reaching it, what our movement becomes. If we're not moving towards a goal, our movement isn't moving. And Prabhupada said this in a letter to Karandar, that we always have to create a fresh challenge as leaders so that the devotees will want to rise up and meet it. It's in the rising up that we discover our potential, and not before. Until we say we're going to a higher level, we don't realize how to depend on Krishna as much. And so I was thinking this morning about how without having that, let me just say that in reaching for our goals, we discover miracles. Miracles come to us. We don't know that a miracle is going to come until we actually go for a goal that we think we can't make. And then when the miracle happens, that's when the Krishna consciousness movement becomes interesting. And without touching that miracle, we live on a plateau always. That's the nature of the human experience. In fact, I read a book recently about how every function in the human body is designed so that when it's not at peak experience, it shuts down, just like your computer. When you're not using it, your computer goes to sleep, and it just shows one screen just showing patterns or a few words, and it's not using up the energy. And so similarly, every one of the organs in our bodies shuts down to some degree. It goes to sleep when we're not using it to go for something important. So similarly, our movement goes to sleep as well. If we don't collectively have a goal that we're all shooting for together. So one of the reasons that Bhadra Purnima is important is because it's what it's making of us to work together to hit the goal. What we're discovering in the process about ourselves, the new systems that we're developing for follow-up, and the new communities. We wouldn't have known about the African American community if it wasn't for Bhadra, because we wouldn't have been compelled to talk together and hear last night from Gopal Champu Prabhu and Mahotsava about how there's a whole community waiting for us out there that we should be talking to. And now we know. And that's one of the byproducts of us working together towards a goal. And then the next point is that without touching a touchstone to something, you don't know if it's a touchstone or not. And so when we distribute Srimad Bhagavatam and we see the marked change in people when they take it into their house and they start reading it, then we realize how powerful it is for ourselves. It's vice versa. And many of you have said this, that you have to read it in order to know how it changes you and how you're actually associating with Krishna. But by the same token, when we distribute it and we see the change in other people, and I've given this example before, but it's just like in ancient times, the sages used to do animal sacrifices just to show the efficacy of the mantras, because they would bring the animal back to life by their mantra, and they say, yes, it works. So in a similar way, when we distribute the Bhagavatam and the mantras in the books brings people back to life and to their real life, then we see, oh, this is a touchstone. As Savas Prabhu so eloquently said in the beginning, we're making people fortunate. And how could we bring any more good fortune besides bringing the vibration of the Bhagavat into their homes? And I want to read a couple of my favorite verses from the Bhagavatam, just so we can hear a little bit and appreciate the vibration. This is from the second canto, chapter 8, text number 4. Ashrinvata shradaya nityam gurnatascha swacheshtitam kalena natidirghena bhagavan vishate hridi. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna manifested in their hearts within a short time. Pravishtakarna randrena swanam bhavam suroruham dunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yata sharat. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is the Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. And finally, Dao tat ma purusha Krishna padamulam namunchati mukta sarva parikleshta panta swa sharanam yata. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. This is unparalleled poetry in the history of mankind. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this is the Amala Purana when he's describing the most important aspects of devotional service. Of course, it's summarized by Prabodhananda Saraswati when he mentions the various ways in which Lord Chaitanya focused on particular aspects of devotional service as the most important. Aradyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayasta Dhamma Vrindavan Ramya Kachurupasana Vraja Vidu Vargina Vokalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumartam Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Matamidam. His idea, his opinion was that Lord Krishna and his abode are non-different, that the highest method of worshiping Krishna was the method conceived by the gopis, and that the ultimate goal of life is to attain prema, and that the perfect scripture, out of all the scriptures, the authority on everything is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Amala Purana. And he said this is the decided opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's such a perfect alignment to have this. And Prabhupada, as Radhanath Maharaj brought up the other day, didn't come to America until he had it in his hand to lead the charge. So this is the tip of the spear of our movement. Savas Prabhu brought up that book distribution is the heart and soul of our movement, the printing press, the Brihat Madanga, the Bhagavat Marg that we're distributing. And Indradumna Maharaj brought up this point, Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for special people, but because of Mahaprabhu's influence, we're giving it to everybody. Patra na apatra. We don't care about the time, place, circumstance, person. It's crazy, actually. That's what Kaviraj Goswami said. Mahaprabhu and his associates went nuts. You know, they just went crazy distributing it, and they didn't care anymore who was qualified or unqualified. So that's what we're doing. We're following in the footsteps of all these great souls. So my suggestion is that we stick together as a team, and we keep expanding that sense of our team in order to hit higher and higher goals so that we can develop more capacity together. And that's, as Savas Prabhu said, that's the flavor of the movement that he joined. That's what kept him going, and that's what he sees in Gopal Champu Prabhu and all the rest of you. That same inspiration that came directly from the spiritual platform, you can't get anywhere else. You don't get any intoxication like Sankirtan in any other place. And that's what makes our movement great. It's not about the management, although it's important because we have to manage the results. It's not about the buildings because buildings fall apart and they get cockroaches in them. And, you know, it's just buildings are buildings. But what our movement is, it's a movement of inspiration coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the way that we do that is by distributing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's books. And it will always be that way. So we might as well invest our heart and soul into this, as all of you are doing. Let's do more together. And let's expand this all over the planet so that we can hit yearly goals on marathons like Bhadra, the end of the year campaign. We can do 10 times, 50 times more than we're doing. It's conceivable that we can do 50,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 Bhagavatams in 1 year. We can do it. And if the Gideons are doing it, and they are, Navina Prabhu sent me information. He did research just recently about the Gideons, how they're doing it. They have, Gideons members pay $60 yearly membership fee, and they put much time towards the cause. They collected 109 million last year and used 78 of it for book distribution. Study shows that each book has a 6-year lifespan, 2,300 potential readers. A quarter of all travelers read something in the book. 65K members, all men, and 33K auxiliary, which means wives. So that's a movement, and that's what we're developing together too. What do you think? Shall we do it? Yes. Say yes.
Yes.
So now let's just see if there's any final. We want to show a few slides to end. What a beautiful slide. I love this. It's fantastic. Anukul Seva, I think, is the genius designer who's bringing all these beautiful designs to the campaign. That really what makes makes it visible and visceral. Thank you very much. Go to Goloka. Next. Thank you for making this slide beautiful again. Participate. These are the ways we're telling everyone they can participate in Bhadra. Get at least one set for yourself, or 2 or 3 or 5. Gift at least one set. Sponsor at least one set. Give referrals for at least 5 worthy recipients. And all of these ways gets your name on the list. You want to be on that list, that you participated in Bhadra, especially in 2020, because this is a very strange time, and we need to rise to the occasion. Everyone's name should be on the list, that I did something for this revolution to counteract the dark, dark energy that's enveloping the planet right now. And next, one of the ways the participants will be recognized is we're having a Mahayagya down in Ahobilam, which is a very powerful tirtha where Lord Nrsingadev resides. And somebody asked me, why are we doing fire yagyas? We're the Sankirtan movement. And I mentioned last night, I'd like to mention again, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to hold Sankirtan melas, but around the external, the perimeter of the mela, he would have Ferris wheels and a carnival-like situation. So people thought, oh, how fun, cotton candy, let's go. And then they'd walk into the Bhagavatam tent accidentally. So we use everything that attracts attention, and that this is a way to bring the energy. And we're also praying for Lord Nrsingadev's protection for the Sankirtan movement, as Prabhupada introduced his mantra to our movement, and asking him to please help us in all ways to expand book distribution all over the world. In any case, anyone who's a participant will have their name entered into the yagya. Your name will go into this yagya. Bring this up to people. They don't want to miss it, and don't hesitate. They shouldn't hesitate to take a set of Srimad Bhagavatams and get in on this as soon as possible. It starts at 7:30 a.m. India Standard Time, so that makes it 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Sorry, it's 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast, but this is a rare opportunity. It'll be accompanied, the Bhadra Dana Yaga, with various other kinds of programming, speakers, singers. There'll be some dance, and all that kind of stuff will be there alongside the Bhadra Yagya. Here are some maps showing how we're doing so far. If you look at the map, you can look and see your area. And the numbers appearing on the screen, we want to see numbers all over the screen as far as possible growing. Everything counts. Every set counts. And we're going for a lot of communities, each doing a little bit. So don't hesitate to do your level best to bring it up. The only thing we don't want to see is a 0, if possible. So if you know anybody in these places, or you're on the call and you see a 0, then at least move it to 1 if you can. Then we have a look at Down Under. We had a call last night with Devamrita Swami and the devotees in New Zealand and Australia, and they're taking it very seriously. They wrote this morning and said, or last night, and they said it made it had a big effect on all the devotees there, that we all got together and talked about it. In fact, somebody sold a Bhagavatam set even as we were speaking, and that the devotees got enlivened by hearing from all of you and being together. So it's growing there. Let's see where else. Here's India with huge, huge numbers growing. And this was sparked really by the first call that we had with Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Bhima Prabhu, mentioning how anything could happen. And the devotees changed their mind, and they said, rather than doing whatever just happens during this pandemic, they changed their decision and decided to do bigger than they've ever done before. So there's gigantic numbers coming out of India right now. In fact, people are calling it Bhadra fever. It's spreading all over the globe. people wanting to get involved with it. It really is. And any other maps? There's the rest. We see Argentina with 3. I saw Jayapataka Maharaj, after he saw this, he wrote to all the devotees in South America and said, "What are you doing? Get on the map. We want to see more." And that's why we show these maps, is because when you see it, then you become enlivened and you say, "Oh, I see a 12 here. It could become 24. I see a 3. Why is it, there's only 3 sets in a whole continent?" So it makes leadership, the leaders, aware of what's really going on. And if you want more resources, you can get them at our website, bhadracampaign.com, or write to the BBT Marketing, Communications and Innovations Department at info@bbtbooks.org. And we'll be compiling all of the best practices we're getting from all these calls and putting there so you can pick them up and use them at any time. And now we're just about out of time, but I just wanted to check and see if anybody had any final reflections or a question, that something they wanted to clarify, or anything I left out of telling about logistics.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Somebody was asking about what are the different languages Bhagavatam is available in for sponsorship.
Yeah, just show him Aditya Narayan Prabhu's video. I think he listed a lot of them. Savas Prabhu, what languages do we have the Bhagavatam available in?
Hey. So I got my little list here. Okay, we have the Bengali Shrimad Bhagavatam and Hindi Bhagavatam. We also have the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Hindi. We have the Bhagavatam in Marathi. And that's what we have right now.
There's also European languages, right? Because it's in Hungarian, it's in German, Hungarian, German. What other languages are European languages? Practically most of them, right?
That they have the Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't have that chart in front of me, but yeah. German for sure.
There's also Telugu, I think.
I was looking for Telugu, but yeah.
We know some of the Indian languages.
Yeah, Telugu we have also.
Okay.
Yeah, Telugu. I missed that one.
Malini, what are the most popular of the Indian languages right now?
Prabhu, we have Tamil.
Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, Hindi, right? Marathi.
Marathi is also there, Prabhu.
Okay. And anyway, most European languages, it's available also? Okay. Any other questions or points?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. So one thing we were discussing is what happens to the sets that are distributed after Bhadra Purnima? You know, is there a plan to introduce another marathon, Bhadra Purnima to Gaur Purnima, something like that?
Well, what we're finding is that it's important to have variegatedness. So the set distribution going up to Bhadra is really powerful and important, but we feel, at least our sense right now is going into the end of the year marathon, the varieties of books like Bhagavad Gita and all the sets that you're selling are really important too. There's a different effect we get from that. And we can really push hard for that towards the end of the year. There's, as far as follow-up to Bhadra, the day after the Bhadra finishes starts Reading Week, National Reading Week. We contributed to that by making that seminar recently, which will be re-released. It's been, they've gotten it ready, and they're going to release that. There'll be reading of Bhagavatam for a whole week to bring people's attention to that. And then we're thinking about making a huge push for Chaitanya Charitamrita sets for Gaur Purnima, because that's a really beautiful book to distribute, and we can make a big deal out of that also for people all over the world. So we get that going. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll keep a fresh challenge and goal going. Nandini Kishori, one of
Yes,
the great
Guru Maharaj.
champions of book distribution and everything else there is under the Krishna Conscious Sun. Please go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all of you. Thank you so much for encouraging. So I wanted to let you know that Vineet Prabhu helped us get a Srimad Bhagavatam to James and Chris from St. Augustine, two brothers, and they are moving into Krishna House on Bhadra Purnima.
Whoa.
They're chanting 16 rounds. They're reading every day, following many things.
The fruit, the end result. Thank you very much for always reminding us about what's happening.
Your blessings, all of your
Yes.
blessings.
Anirudh, go ahead.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Pranam. So, Prabhu, this Bhadra Purnima campaign, I was just noticing that, like you started few months before, it is having so much impact. So, what if it is started a little earlier, like after Gaur Purnima? So,
Actually, we did start after Gaur Purnima. We started the campaign in Mayapur in February. We put a huge push on. I gave a pitch to the whole GBC. We took a picture with them. They all signed on to it. And then we started advertising that campaign then. And we officially started it at Gaur Purnima. Now, as far as awareness goes, people are busy. I mean, devotees are doing stuff all over the planet. And getting everyone's attention doesn't always happen right away. As I mentioned, it happened recently when we had a call. I mean, everyone in India knows about Bhadra Purnima. All the leaders know about it. And when we had a call with Gopal Krishna Maharaj recently and Bhima Prabhu, and sort of a light bulb went off. And that was just a few weeks ago, even though we did start it at Gaur Purnima. So starting the campaign and actually getting everyone's attention, that's sometimes two different things. But I think we have everyone's attention now. And the point is that like the Sankirtan newsletter started, and for a whole year or two, not many people contributed to it until Prabhupada said, I'm reading this, you should be into this. And then it took off and it became a staple. And similarly, the end of year marathon started off as a kind of an aberration. It was a group in Los Angeles that just went for it spontaneously. They didn't plan it. And then gradually it became an ISKCON standard everywhere. So Bhadra Purnima's got a life of its own. And I think that next year we will get more attention even as we launch it at Gaur Purnima. Any other questions?
Nice.
Okay. Well, we did what we could, and we did a lot. Thank you, Savas Prabhu, for coming on the call, and for all the other leaders for joining, giving your kind attention to this. Sorry if we missed anybody, but that's the wealth that we have. We have so many leaders now from everywhere who could give presentations and tell their realizations. So we just took a sampling from the great souls who are on this Zoom right now, and that is the strength of our book distribution movement. We must surpass Gideon's. We must go past the Watchtower and all these others. This is what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted a worldwide book distribution movement that made the Bhagavatam a household name. And we all together here and around the world with the rest of our members are part of that cutting edge. So let's do it now while we have the chance, while we have breath in our bodies. That will guarantee a spot in Lord Chaitanya's eternal movement. Those of you who are giving your life and soul to this, please let's stay together and let's think really, really big and let Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make up the details. It's his movement. We just have to try, and we will develop the capacity by endeavoring every month, every year, every day to increase the book distribution and our reading of it and our follow-up with the people who join because of it. Om Tat Sat. Here's the Bhadra campaign Dana Yagya poster.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So last 2 days are vital. Go for it. Pull out all the stops. We're inching towards our goal still. So we need everybody's help. So please try, do your utmost. Oh, Hare Krishna. We've got Prema and Premi all the way from South America. Thank you for checking in. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So can everyone please unmute and say Hare Krishna?
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Krishna.
Haribol. Haribol.
Hare
Panchakalpataruscha kripasinabheva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavesvanam Vaishnavini ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Haribol.
Vinod Thakur ki jai.